That was Pastor Nick's way
Right,
of
right.
saying get your head in the game.
Right. Yep. Hey, y'all.
Okay.
What's up?
So it seems like we're live.
We got
We are
it. We
live.
got it.
How y'all
We got
doing?
it.
What's up? We're just bantering behind the scenes.
Telling
So glad you all could join us this evening for another business BPA panel. Please do us a favor and share if you can. Of course, we want to give everybody a few minutes to come on. We'll banter, we'll talk for a minute, and then we're still on Jesus CEO, Using Ancient Wisdom for Visionary Leadership. You should get the book. It's really it's compact chapters, but it has some good information in there. So you want to make sure you get involved, ask your questions, and we will talk about some important things this evening that will help us out this evening. Hello, hey Sister Villanueva, how are you? So again, please share this, tag somebody that's in corporate America, a business owner. We're going to go over some information, answer any questions. Hey, my leader, to help you in this business environment. Before we really get started on the topic, I guess we can throw this out here. Since the pandemic started, there were some people that I know made more money during the pandemic than they were making before the pandemic. We might as well just jump into it and kind of talk about that, because trouble creates opportunities for some people. And I hate to use that, but that's actually just the honest to God truth of it.
Yeah.
And some people, here it is, they know how to pivot well and figure out a way rather than talking about their circumstances. So, as people are coming on, this would be a good, introduction type conversation. How do we, some advice for people to help pivot during this time, especially since it looks like we're going back into another restriction, another time of, it may not be extreme shutdown, but something.
Yeah, one of the things that I actually shared with my staff at the top of the pandemic was to just think about, they've all been in the meetings and events industry for many, many years. Have them take another look at their resume and look at those things that may not be directly related to the job they're doing today, but look at those other skill sets that they may have that would enable them to pivot into another area. Because working with the skeleton staff right now, because we've had to furlough so many people, everyone's wearing several hats. So it was important to me as a leader to identify what other skill sets were out there other than what our core competency was, that we could leverage people's skills and create other opportunities for them. And it's worked really well. I have people who came in as salespeople that are now, managing operations and then doing some finance work. And sometimes we get so focused on what we've been doing, we forget about those other skills that have gotten us to where we are today. So I think we just need to think of what else we can do other than what we're doing now.
Yeah. Especially the people that know how to do online and social media.
Mm-hmm.
And I think we were talking about doing an online, how to make money online marketing for your business.
Mm-hmm.
They learned all that target marketing and all that stuff, and were able to generate some income through ads and through all those things like that. So it's another way of doing your business under difficult circumstances, if we can say it like that.
That's a great segue, Pastor Nick, because that's a preview of what we're going to do next month. Pastor Nick asked me, could we get somebody to help us with that? And we found a C-suite executive from Facebook that's going to come on next month and help us talk about that particular subject. So we'll have some other folks, but we got one person already. We'll get some other.
I hear you.
Good.
We can hear you, Jack.
Yeah, we can hear you.
Oh, can you?
Yeah, man.
How you doing?
We heard you when you belched too.
I don't hear them though.
You can't hear it?
You can't hear us?
You can hear us?
Not as clear as I'd like to.
He said you can't. That means you can't at all. Now, which is it?
It sounds like Justice in the back says she can hear us.
We can hear Justice.
Yeah, we can hear. Help your father out. Help your father out, Justice.
Tell Justice to take the child restraints off.
Is that better?
It is.
Better than-
Okay.
She took the child restraints off. See?
Hey, what can you say?
Right.
God bless y'all.
I think adversity signals to a business not just that they need to pivot, but what direction they need to go. Most of it, I read an article yesterday about when Jobs came back to Apple and got rid of like 97% of what they were offering in products. And he said the problem with that is people become very ownership oriented to ideas. And even if the ideas aren't working, they want you to stick with them.
Mhm.
And he said he threw out this stuff and slimmed down his whole approach. I think he went from dozens of products down to two, and then two types of customers, and then they exploded from that point. So I think sometimes this era that we're in can cause you to get, like Deborah said, get reacquainted with what your specialties are,
Yeah. Yeah.
and the whole business can turn. Chef and I have a lot of conversations about how to pivot during this time and what we need to do.
Yeah.
I know one thing that I've noticed is that, at least from the service industry, all my peers, to make their business more profitable with the costs constantly going up, is that although they're working with less staff and they have a tendency to pay that staff a little bit more, they're getting more production. Just as Deborah said, you're getting more production out of these people. So your micromanaging doesn't become an all day, everyday process, because you know people are going to be working all day, all the time.
Mhm.
What I found is that the business of the industry that I'm in, they've reduced the size of menus to maximize their costs. So if you'll notice, if you go out to dinner now, the average menu that will be 20 items is probably down to maybe 10, 15 max. And that's to accommodate the staff that they have to pay. And it's also to minimize their costs. They're probably spending 30 to 50% more on paper because of the blast in takeout now than ever before, which is a big cost. It's a big cost. And I'll give you a perfect example of a cost. A round plastic container last year was $49 a case, $69 a case. They're $160 a case now. Yeah. And that's just one item. So you now have to pivot, find a cheaper takeout container that still makes sure that your food stays just as fresh. And it's very hard to do.
Yeah. Yeah. So a lot of actually goes right to Tamiko. I hope I'm saying your name right. We have some connections to GED programs. Call the church, extension 317, and I'll try to connect you to somebody. Call the church 85. Oh, Mike, can you put the phone number in the comment section? And call the church, and we'll take care of you. But we do have some connections to some GED programs. So if anybody needs a GED, we have some connections. All right. I believe with some of the local colleges around here that can help you out. A lot of people are going back to school during this time too. They're using the time at home online to take classes, and so that whole pivot piece. But this is a good introduction to the first chapter of the book, which is the he said I am part. We're talking about Jesus knowing who he was, and knowing who you are dictates how you react in your wilderness, in your troubles, in your hard times. I don't know about y'all. There are some seasons that they were heinous. I wish I never went through them, but I appreciate what they produced. And I don't know. I'm not sure if y'all had that contradiction where you look at it like that thing hurt like hell, and if we're honest, it still can bother you some.
Mm-hmm.
But what it produced, you would never trade back.
Yeah.
So let's talk about how our character is tested during the wilderness, because Satan comes to tempt Jesus in the wilderness. If you are who you say you are, do this. It's all about who he is. Jesus remembers who he is in the wilderness, which allows him to respond appropriately to each test that's presented to him.
Mhm.
So, what are some
Mhm.
business tests that we all go through that challenge us as people, but produce great things out of us at the same time? I know it's a loaded
You know,
question.
if I may, one of the struggles in life that I've learned that has really bared fruit are those struggles. And I wrote a little book. But one of the things that I found out is that they build the walls. And the walls are literally, once we recognize what they're there for, they actually protect us from ourselves and they also strengthen us. You know, something I read the other day in the book, and she said, and I thought this was paramount, that we are built for success. So we are built for success, but we are programmed for failure.
Hmm.
And that is something that's so paramount that once we realize that the struggles that we go through are actually building us for where we're going, who would have thought that all of the distractions, all of the troubles, all of the torment that we had gone through, or at least that I have gone through in life, has prepared for a time like this, a time when we really have something to say to people and to give them the opportunity to understand that even though they may be going through struggles, they may be going through torment, they may be going through tough times, it is there to do two things. First, to show them how strong they really are. And then, secondly, once they realize that it's preparing them for something, we can find excitement in it. Now, the pain is going to be the pain, it's going to hurt, but we have to focus on once we get through it, there is, and Bishop says this all the time, God does not waste pain. And I found that to be a fact. So it builds the walls and it strengthens us as we go. But we have to let folk know that it's not going to be fun, but it's necessary. It's necessary. Yeah.
And I think the same way you don't want to, you've got to go through pain. You don't want to waste that. You also don't want to waste an opportunity. And so, looking at the pandemic, I don't know that many people look at it as an opportunity, but it
Yeah.
actually is. And
Mm-hmm.
I'm in technology. This was a huge opportunity for technology in terms of being able to assist people in how to pivot and to move everything online. I know that the company that I work for actually had their best year ever in sales because we were able to pivot so quickly and put every type of support service online, where we used to go onto the campuses to assist. And colleges and universities were real suspect of that. And then they saw they were getting everything that they needed and more in a very different format. And so somebody said this a little earlier, but I really do believe out of chaos comes opportunity. And I think I kind of thrive on that. And at the
Yeah.
same time, this has been painful, right? Last year was extremely painful, but we had so many successes in that pain. And I think we sometimes forget. I always think we're here to deal with pain. We're going to have pain. Adam and Eve prepared us that we're going to go through that, but it's how you deal with it which leads to you having that success coming out on the other side. And I think that's what strengthens me. I think my parents kind of instilled that in me. We were poor as dirt, but I had no idea because the way that they raised us, I thought that I had, well, and I did, I had everything that I needed, right? And I grew up in a suburban Connecticut environment where there were folks who really did have a lot, but I didn't think I had any less, right? And so that allowed me to go and do things that somebody else might not have been able to do. When I went off to college, I didn't know how I was going to pay for it. My parents, there were still 5 kids behind me, right? And so they could not afford to send me, but off I went, right? And I just figured out, oh, I'm going to work 3 jobs. Oh, I got to get an apartment.
Yeah.
And you just do those things. And by the way, I partied too, right? But I also had to take care of business because I was paying my way through, right? And so you have adversity. There's something every single day, but I think it's your attitude that determines how you're going to handle it. And I'm determined not to be a victim in any of those things that are painful, but you're going to, and I think if as long as you know you're going to deal with trouble, pain is going to come your way, trouble's going to come your way, adversity is going to come your way, and it's really how you deal with it. That's what makes you stronger, so that you are a leader when you come out on the other side.
Yeah, I would absolutely agree with that. I tell people all the time that I've learned the best lessons through adversity and pain. And it was going through that, as you all have said, that it prepared me for the journey I'm on today. I've learned the most powerful lessons from the most difficult leaders that I've had in my life. I've learned what type of leader I wanted to be, what type of leader I didn't want to be. And those that were challenging for me, I was amazed as I continued to grow in my career, the pearls of nuggets that I was actually able to pull from that to help establish who I am as a leader today. So, yeah, it sounds weird, but pain's a kind of a good thing.
I think one of the issues for us is that the most beneficial, distressing circumstances are the ones we don't volunteer for.
Mhm.
They're kind of placed upon us. So when you don't volunteer to have a difficult boss, you don't volunteer for a recession, you don't volunteer for a pandemic, but adversity is actually an invitation when it's properly processed.
Mm,
And I say that because adversity generally attacks your comfort zone.
Yeah.
And when your comfort zone is attacked, creativity is created. So all of a sudden you become creative because the comfortable place you were in no longer exists.
Mhm.
And I think it takes in the Christ context, once we learn that these things work other things, we don't receive them with such a panic. We kind of settle down after the initial panic and say, okay, Lord, what are you trying to show me in this? What do we need to do? How do I need to plan? What do I need to see? What are you adding to my vision for this business? What are you adding to the vision for my employees? It's just adversity is actually an invitation to grow.
mm,
Yeah.
It reminds me of a chicken about to be hatched from an egg. And the whole point of the egg not being cracked for the chicken and having to peck its way out is to develop the strength to live.
Yeah.
mm,
Because if it can't peck its way out of the shell, it will not live.
Mhm.
So it's even that barrier is beneficial.
Yeah.
mm.
Yeah. 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 Uh, and nobody to tell the chicken to do it. Something innate in their
Yeah,
nature
yeah,
to keep
got it.
on doing.
Yeah, there's a
Yeah.
comfort zone. I got
Yeah.
to burst out.
Yeah. One of the things I'm afraid of with a lot of the millennials and Gen Z is, as creative as they are, they don't have the level of fight that other generations have. Now,
Sure.
Mm.
here's the catch-22 of that. Here's the hard part. The stuff that built our fight was the stuff we don't want our kids to go through.
Mm.
That's the hard part. Is that the very thing that built that resolve in us, we shielded our children from to a certain degree. So it's like it's they need that resolve, but we don't want them to experience what we did to get that resolve. So, but I think they need to find it in some way, shape, or form. I think a good parent doesn't totally shield their child from
Yeah.
stuff. Like my kids walk around, we can go buy some more. I'm like, no, me and your mother have money. You have nothing. And I and I got to remind them that, like, yo, you're not going to waste our money because you know you think it's just all willy nilly. No, you break something. You're 8 years old. Let's take some money out your wallet. We give it back to them. Let's take
Hmm.
some money out your wallet because you need to know that you
Won't
know
cost you.
it's going to cost you something,
Hmm.
and you can work and get it back. But I think with this generation coming up, and I know Deb, you talked about this with some of the employees on your job,
Mm.
with some of the millennials and
Mhm.
having to adjust the way y'all work with them because their
Exactly.
resolve and their thought process isn't the same.
Yeah. Yeah, I think you're right. And we have to continue to pour into them. And one of the things I'm very grateful for is the mentor that I had very early in my career who teaching me things I didn't really understand at the time. But as I got older and grew, she taught, she planted those seeds and things were familiar to me. You know, the things that she poured into me when I was in my 20s became very familiar to me when I was in my 30s. And I would say, so this is what Renee was talking about.
Okay.
And I knew how to navigate that. So I think we have to pour those experiences into our younger folks so that they're not completely blindsided when they come up against some of this adversity at work, and they can have a head start on how to navigate through those things, because some things, especially in corporate America, are just going to be what they are. They're not going to change, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we need to continue to prepare them for that.
But Deb, you were willing to listen.
Yes.
And I think once we can get the principle embedded in people that if you're not willing to be taught, you won't advance.
That's absolutely correct.
You know, so you kind of have to kind of keep hammering that on,
Hmm.
hammering that in, so people understand. I've got to sit and listen to someone,
Yeah.
because mentoring and teaching are all designed to shorten your learning curve,
Hmm.
but also
Exactly.
to prepare you for the future.
Hmm.
So, but you were willing to listen to people.
That's absolutely true. I was absolutely ready, to listen and learn. And just as a small example, I showed up at work. I was working at the National Urban League at the time. I showed up at work one day with I'll never forget, a silky form-fitting blue dress on with a slit up the side.
Thought you were
And when
sharp, didn't
yeah, she couldn't tell me nothing. Went and sat at I was a secretary at the time. Went and sat at my desk. My boss came out. She went back into her office. She called me on the intercom. That's how long ago that was. Called me in her office and told me to go home and change my clothes and never come back in the office looking like that,
you?
like I had just come from a party.
Wow.
And I cried like a baby. And this was my mentor, right? I didn't know she was my mentor at the time, though, but she became my mentor, and she let me have it. And but I didn't argue with her about it. I just did exactly what she said. I went home, and I came back to work the next day dressed appropriately. So even that was a hard lesson for me because it was humiliating. But again, this was also the same woman who took me to my first fine dining restaurant. And I ordered grilled fish instead of fried, and she dared me to ask for hot sauce. So, you so I mean, she was mentoring me holistically, not just about how to navigate corporate America, but how to carry myself as a young woman. Not that my
Oh,
parents didn't share these things with me, but it was so much more than just
yeah, yeah.
the workplace. And I just knew that I had to listen to her.
It's what I call context training.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you have to be willing to put in the work, right? I mean, wherever you are, statistics show that 70% of learning comes from on the job, doing the work.
Hmm.
20% comes from going to school, and 10 comes from some outside training course. You have to be willing to do the work, and a lot of folks have to learn that, and some learn it early, and some learn it late. But if you don't put in the work, by putting in the work, you find a way. You find out who you really are, what your strengths are, what your
Hmm.
weaknesses are, and in most instances, we lean towards our strengths, and a lot of people think that's not a good thing. Well, statistics show that is kind of a good thing,
Yeah.
because then you can find other people around you that can help you with the weaknesses that they're good at. That you may not be good at
Absolutely.
that, but they are. But you really have to be able to. You have to be willing to put in the work, and putting in the work helps you find out who you really are. And then once you know who you are, you're able to take off.
Yeah.
And leaders have to be able to admit where they don't have strengths. They have to be able to
Right.
admit where their deficiencies are. And a
Right.
lot of us that are in leadership can't do that. We know it's there, but we don't want to admit it because
Hmm.
there's some insecurity in our insufficiency. But
Hmm.
if you don't admit it, you won't get the help, and your organization is limited. I always use Jesus as an example. Now he could do everything his disciples could do. He trained them thoroughly, yet he had 12 helpers.
That's
Hmm.
right.
So that showed me something, that in a corporate environment, you can't be the only gifted person in the room.
Hmm.
And you want some folk that are differently gifted than you are.
Hmm.
Hmm.
You know, it's just. It just makes sense.
Yeah, it does. I mean, you hire to that. You hire to your
Yeah,
weaknesses.
yeah.
You
Most
know.
people won't do that though.
Most people hire somebody that's just like them. They
Absolutely.
hire what they know, and therefore you don't really
Mm-hmm.
grow because you have too many vulnerabilities in there.
Hmm.
But if you have that confidence in yourself, if you know who you are, you don't have a problem hiring somebody smarter than you in other areas.
That's
I
right.
truly believe, and one of the reasons why I am so successful is because I'm successful at putting really sharp teams together.
Yeah.
Because while I'm in technology and I may be the vice president, I do not begin to know everything. And so to get that success, it doesn't just lie with me, it lies with that team and surrounding yourself with those folks who are going to bolster up, as you just said, Bishop, those areas where you don't have those strengths.
Mm-hmm.
And be confident about that, right?
Yeah.
And that is, I think, is a struggle for a lot of leaders who think that that makes them appear vulnerable or makes them appear weak. And actually, it does the opposite.
Opposite.
Mhm. Mhm.
I think when you have a leader that's insecure like that, they tend to give instructions not to be fulfilled. They give them in a way that the person will fail.
Wow.
Mm.
It's and it becomes such a habit for them. At one point, they don't realize that they're gearing people to fail, so they'll have something to criticize. So they always feel they're superior in an area that they don't have any strength in. It's a self-fulfilling prophecy that leads you to failure sooner or later.
Yeah.
Um, but you cannot be the only smart person in the room. You just can't be.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And then the organization doesn't do well,
Right.
and it end up falling back at you anyway.
Mhm.
You kind of bring up a good point, because the second point is talking about Jesus being I am, declared himself the Son of God. Some of biblically the biggest dilemma with human beings, especially called people, is their gift progresses faster than their character.
Absolutely.
And if we look at ourselves, it's the same thing is true. We can perfect our career while still being either horrible people or very flawed character. And the problem is most of the biggest mistakes in scripture are not their gifting. It's their character eventually comes out and it derails what they're doing, not because they're not gifted.
Yeah.
It's a character issue. It's a wisdom flaw
Yeah.
that gets in the way. And I think sometimes it's great to perfect your career, but not at the expense of perfecting your person at the same time.
Well,
I don't know that you can perfect your career if you have not worked on your character, unless you have a skewed view of perfecting your career.
Yeah.
Right? I don't think you're going to be on the right trajectory if that character is not solid. So
it catches up eventually. It catches up with you.
Yeah, it does.
Oh yeah, it does.
You think that
limit you.
You think that's interesting with our youth, young business people today? I had the fortune to be able to coach my son when he was younger, football, basketball, baseball, whatever. And
That's
the
what's
one
wrong.
thing,
That's what's wrong with your back.
probably so.
He's doing too much.
The one thing I was never happy with youth sports was that everybody got a trophy.
Doesn't make any sense. It's
And
not the real world.
it used to drive me crazy. Football, there was three different levels of, let's say it was 120-pound balls, A, B, and C. Everybody can't play football.
Right.
And it was a thing that the community always wanted everybody to have an opportunity to play. Well, in some cases that might be, but if you're not athletically prepared or you're not big enough to play that sport, everybody can't play basketball.
No.
And what I found with the youth is that they expect to be given and not know how to fail at something to be great at it. So a lot of them are expecting when they get into the corporate, whether they get into kitchens or wherever, that they're going to be an executive chef.
Immediately.
Okay.
And they actually look at my arms, but I have burns, and they think they're tattoos. So it's, Bishop, you know how my arms look.
Yeah.
And what I found is that a lot of the youth today and young business people that are trying to go into business don't know the road it takes to get to be at that level. So they expect it to be given to them.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I think they're being told that presence qualifies you, not
Mhm.
performance. So you raise a kid that continually gets rewarded for showing up. They finally get to college and they learn that you don't get points for showing up.
Right.
But it's so embedded, they go to a job and expect to get credit for showing up. So then they're asking their mother to come talk to their boss because they don't understand all this criticism that they're getting. Because I'm here,
But there's a young business group of young folks right now that are trying to go into business and trying to figure this thing out
Mhm.
and don't understand. They don't understand that part because they think they're going to go to a bank and the bank going to say, yeah, here you go.
No, they
It
don't
doesn't
pay you
happen
for
like
showing.
that.
They don't pay you for showing up.
Yeah.
I've always believed, and I've always looked at things. I failed 1,000 times before I got one thing right the first time, and I kept trying and trying and trying and trying and trying until I got it right. And when I got it right, that's when I knew how to appreciate what I actually just went through to get there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I think they look online and think that people are overnight sensations. Not and part of the blame is on the people who succeed that don't tell the truth about their process.
What the
Absolutely.
journey actually
Absolutely.
Yeah,
was.
they just act
Absolutely.
like I just showed up and I was good. They didn't talk about all the time they messed up, they failed, and da 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 or
Mm-hmm.
whatever. Not saying you got to take everything, but let people know there is a process to this. There is a struggle, and from what I hear, I'm not there yet. Y'all can help me out. It's harder to stay somewhere and to
Absolutely.
progress than it is to get
Absolutely.
there.
Absolutely.
They said that's the real job.
Mm-hmm.
And overnight is at least 10 years.
Yep.
Yeah,
Right.
at least
Right.
minimally.
Yeah,
Right.
that's fat. That's quick overnight. That's
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
that's daylight savings time.
Right.
Yeah, you're right.
Yep.
Overnight's 10 years, bro.
Yeah. Somebody said it takes years to become an overnight sensation. You're right. It
Yep,
just and what people call luck is just preparation meeting opportunity.
that's all.
Mm-hmm.
People call that lucky, but you've been prepared for this for years.
It's work.
The opportunity just finally showed up.
And recognized it when it showed up.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
so true.
Yeah.
So I think part of what we're learning now is a lot of people working on our character, building our person up. Because, like you said, the bad person's going to catch up. Moses' anger issues caught up with him after a while. All throughout Scripture, it catches up with you, and you can miss great moments. Because I think, now I could be wrong here, some people that are highly successful, they thought the success the overachievement will make up for a lack of character,
Oh yeah.
a bad past.
Oh yeah, they think so. Yeah.
And when they reach it, they're just as miserable, sad, depressed, and frustrated because they forgot to work. They thought this was going to compensate for that. That's the perfect word.
Mm-hmm.
Hmm.
Okay.
I think when we look at Samson, and we've talked about this before, Pastor Nick.
Yeah.
Samson's problem was not his giftedness.
Mhm.
Samson did not have self-respect. He had self-esteem, but he did not have self-respect.
Mm.
And his problem was he could not handle the stress of his assignment.
Yeah.
And a lot of times, aberrant behavior is connected to not being able to handle the stress of what you're being asked to do.
Yeah.
So a lot of times, what I do is kind of see where people are coming apart around the seams.
Mhm.
And that'll tell you they're in a place where the stress of the assignment has begun to take a toll.
So true. So true.
Yeah, they'll start doing little weird things and
Yeah.
showing up late for work and,
Mhm.
short-tempered and
Mhm.
all of a sudden can't handle any stress. The quilt always starts to break around the edges. It never starts to
Yeah.
wear in the middle.
Yeah. That is so true.
Yeah.
Hmm.
So true. So true. And I think, not to bring up, self-care is important, especially for those of us who are busy. If there's one thing the pandemic has taught me, is when this is over, better self-care in some cases. And I'm being honest with you.
Yeah.
A new diet each week.
No, I'm not, the food, I'll worry about that later. But the real thing was, I'm always on to the next thing. I never stop to smell the roses. I'm like, next thing, always on the move, which is great. And I enjoy that part of me. But there are times I'm learning in the pandemic, I can slow down it sometimes, not all the time. But it's okay to take this hour just to do this real quick and then get right back in, do what I got to do. You know what I'm saying? Because you can get so caught up in the hustle and bustle that by the time those edges start falling apart, you're missing all the signs of those things coming out.
Yeah.
If we would have caught them earlier, we could have
Yeah.
worked and fixed them at the same time.
I
I don't know if that makes sense.
I think John Wooden said, I don't want my players to move fast. I want them to move quickly.
Mhm.
And when he was asked for the distinction, he said, when you move fast, you don't know where you're going to end up. But when you move quickly, you've planned where your next footstep is going to be and where you're going to end up on the court. And I kind of translated that into if you just slow down just a bit, it looks to everyone else like you're really going quickly. If you slow down just a bit, take notes on the journey.
Yeah.
Then when you get to the end of the journey, you'll have an appreciation for it.
Yeah.
But you got to slow down if you slow down just enough to be able to train somebody or help somebody do what you're accomplishing, you'll find you'll enjoy the experience a lot better.
Yeah.
And you can go to the next thing because it's always a fulfilling thing that you're doing.
That's so true, Bishop. And what you find with folks that have been successful, or even folks that are people of color or diverse, that they spend so much time making sure that they don't fail, that even as they succeed, they don't stop, as Pastor Nick said, to enjoy the fact that they did succeed, because they're trying to make sure they don't fail. So you to stop, slow down, to take the time, and to still finish a task. I remember my dad, when I was a kid, he taught me this thing. He said, once a task has just begun, never leave it till it's done. Whether the task is big or small, do it well or not at all. And that was what he taught me. But then he said, now once it's done, look at it and say, wow, it's done, before you move on to the next task. Because so many times we're so worried about, I can't fail, that we don't take the time to enjoy the fact that we've been able to accomplish something.
Yeah. I think you have to love the result, but you do have to have affection for the process.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
And the more you accomplish, the more appreciative you are of the process that you have to go through to get there.
Yeah.
Some people call the process monotony, but that's a perspective. It's not monotony if it's getting me to where I want to go.
And the wash on, wash off.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I've been saying for years, every successful person has mastered doing virtually the same thing every day.
Absolutely. Anybody else want to share their thoughts on that before we move on to the next topic? Yeah, cool. So the next part of it was that Jesus stuck on his mission. So what is your mission as a leader? There are many things Jesus could have done that he chose not to. So everything about him is my meat to do my Father's will. And the disciples were he's talking about he's hungry to do his Father's will. They think he's talking about physical food. He's like, I'm not talking about physical food. I'm on a mission. And his mission drove him from birth to Calvary and beyond. And everything he did was on mission about his Father's will. But he always checked in to make sure this was the will. This is the right thing to do. And even in the hard times, he stayed on mission. So let's talk about how mission keeps you through difficult seasons. And another part to that, for us, because we're not Jesus, we don't know everything. When do we have to make some adjustments to the mission as we go? Can it be tweaked along the way? If I can say it like that, based off
it has to be.
Yeah.
It has to be. What blows my mind about Jesus was his interest in developing those people around him. He starts out from the gate. You guys follow me, watch me do what I do so you can do what I do. And I'm going to empower you to do it. And he never felt threatened by that. That's not common these days. We develop people to a certain extent, but we really need to develop them in almost a discipling way. I want to see you succeed. I want to encourage you to become all you can become.
Hmm.
And I think that in itself will fuel your own enthusiasm for your own assignment.
Yeah.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. When I read that chapter, that's almost exactly what I wrote down when I was trying to figure, okay, so what is your mission? And I wrote down to develop people, to mentor, develop people, and create opportunities for them.
Hmm.
And I came up with those things because when I look back over my career, God has always put me, even when I didn't understand it, put me in a position where I could do those things, create opportunities. When and there were folks out there that were talented. I think when we had the financial crisis way back when, that big first one. People were losing their jobs. I got a great job, and then I had the opportunity to create a team of like 50 people. And I was able to reach out to those that I knew that had the talent and that were credible and create opportunities for them. And then I'm always about succession planning. When I go on vacation, I don't want you to have to call me, right? So I want the people that are underneath me to be able to keep the business moving, right? I'm available for an emergency, but my goal is let me have my time off. And if I can't have that time off, if I don't train these people to do what I do, so it might seem a little selfish because I don't want to be bothered on my vacation, but it's to their benefit.
Not selfish at all.
So I believe that that's what my mission is, and that's what I find myself with every place I ever worked. That's what I was doing. And in addition to that, and I know this is not always popular, God has created spaces for me in each of my roles, right? Not only to develop and create opportunities, but to minister as well. And I know we talk about that a lot, and we shouldn't be walking around the office beating people over the head with the Bible, but he has created a safe place for me in so many situations where I could freely share that. And then I got to know my team as well and where they stood, and to learn there were so many believers amongst my team called for a different strategy in the way I managed the group going forward. So I've been really forever grateful for that I've had that safe place to do that. And that's not the case with everybody in every environment.
Mm.
Could we also say that to your point, Bishop, that Jesus was about self-sufficiency, right? He
Hmm.
wanted us to know that we could come to him and that we could lean on him, that we didn't have to go through at the time, the priest at the temple, but we could actually have a free way to him. And as we develop our team, as we raise our families, as we deal with folks in the ministry, that if we can get to that point of self-sufficiency, then we've kind of met the mission, the overall mission.
Hmm.
That's more of a question than a comment, but self-sufficiency seems to be something that is so important in all that we do.
I think you have to develop character,
So,
self-respect, but you also need to develop your specialization. And for kingdom people, that specialization has to have an element in it that helps other people,
Mhm.
develops them, or creates wealth in their lives, or creates opportunities in their lives. And that way, God can begin to bless us as leaders and as business owners. Because as soon as you start developing folk, I believe that you create this flow, and God starts working through you to bless other people. And I think it's part of the reason for people's longevity. If you're really developing people and blessing their lives, and they're becoming self-sufficient, or
mhm,
they're going on to greater careers or whatever, you develop them. And I believe that's part of God's blessing plan for a leader.
Mhm.
mhm. And
I
I'm a
know.
witness to that because I've truly been blessed, and God has rewarded me openly for my efforts
Yeah.
as it becomes to
Yeah.
blessing His people.
Yeah.
You know.
I know myself. My mission has always been to give more than I can take, because I've lost more than I have. And for the, I guess, 43 years I've been doing this in this industry, have had the opportunity to just work with so many young people and let them see how it's supposed to be done.
Mhm.
And it's now just coming back to me twofold, because I run into people who have either been in the restaurant or met me over the years, and I've shown them something and they say, oh, wow, I just opened up my own place. Oh, wow, I just written my book. So I guess the blessings are coming back to me like that, and I'm totally happy. It's never, ever been a monetary thing for me. I've been very fortunate to have Bishop in my life. So many other people that have kind of blessed me in different ways that have nothing to do with the industry.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
And, coming, being the youngest of 10,
Shoot.
and losing parents when I was 9 and 15, to be here and to be in the audience with you guys, I'm good. I'm good.
Beat the odds.
Yeah.
I'm good.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah. That's
So
amen.
yeah. So one topic we hit on before we go, because we got about 14 minutes left, and actually I'm actually excited about this one. I listened to somebody say a couple months ago, we focus so much on time management that we don't focus on energy management. So I want you to focus on energy management more than time management. Not that he was dissuading, don't do time management, but energy management. So
Mhm.
I know me at 8 a.m. in the morning, 8:30 in the morning, I'm better at certain things. So I schedule those things at that time frame because my energy level is ready for that task. I don't study my Bible that like deeply at 5:30 in the morning like Rich and them because I'm not a morning person. I'm not even fully awake until 11 a.m., 12 o'clock. I'm, you know, it's, I'm just being realistic with you. I'm more focused to study my Bible at nighttime, so I can be up from 10 p.m. to midnight studying my Bible. Clarity's like here.
And I'm
So
fast asleep.
yeah, you're knocked
Mhm.
out. But but I try to schedule my day around my energy. I don't want to sound all metaphysical or mystical, but y'all get what I'm trying to say.
I
Yeah.
do.
Around where my
Yeah.
energy is, rather than focusing on the time part, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
I think sometimes you might focus on both, but I also think that energy, not just about understanding where your physical energy is. So I am that morning person, right? By 7:30, 8 o'clock, what time is it now? PM. Watch out, because I'm, you know, but but you want some good stuff at 4, 5:30 and me thinking and working, that's AM. That's perfect. But the other part of that energy, I think, is our mental energy, our emotional energy. And so staying out of the fray of negativity. I walk into a room, good morning. Uh, oh, I had to drive to work, right? And I'm like, do you have a job? Are you able to pay your bills? Oh, it's raining today. Hey, it's watering my garden. I'm not having to use my water bill. I just always take that negative energy
Yeah.
and make it positive to the point where I'm so consistent like that that people who know me don't come to me with that negative stuff, right? Oh, like everything is so horrible. Well, you wanted a job, you got a job, now you're complaining. But there are people who want a job and can't get one. Stop complaining or go somewhere else. So I'll say that.
Yeah.
But I think it's important to think
Lord
about
have mercy.
that energy, you know, like right now, whether to get a vaccine, not get a vaccine, mask, not wear a mask, I've gotten to the point where I'm not going to get in that debate with someone who is not going to be logical, because that's a waste of my energy,
Mm-hmm.
right? And so, but if you're willing to listen to reason, right, and listen to facts, then I'm going to take part in that. And so I think that other energy, that's your mental, emotional,
Mm-hmm.
is as key as your
Mhm.
physical energy,
Yeah.
in terms of when we're most productive.
Yeah, I would definitely agree with that. I'm a morning person too. I can go from 6 a.m., 3 o'clock in the afternoon. I hope you don't want anything real serious from me because that's when I start declining. Right. And even my staff knows that. They're like, get her in the morning because at 3 o'clock she changes. But I also think I agree with you, Jane, when you talk about, where you allocate your energy to. Even in the corporate environment and being a leader and managing a team, I have to decipher, right? And guard my energy, as it says in the book, because we're supposed to have a shared vision, and you have to recognize those people who have not bought into the shared vision, and they're likely the ones that are going to be draining your energy because they want to go in the opposite direction. Now, we're open to hearing everyone's opinion about stuff, but at the end of the day, if it's a company driven initiative that takes and it is a shared vision, then I can't let another person who's a detractor like drain my energy because they want to tell me why we shouldn't be doing it that way.
Yeah.
So I try and stay clear of that.
So, Pastor Nick, do you think the energy management? I know I say it jokingly, but I always talk about the Jim. I have this Jim Brown syndrome.
Yeah. Hmm.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
I I don't I don't rush until they hike me the
Until
ball.
you have to.
Hmm.
Right.
I'm moving slowly until action is required.
No
Ah,
need to
I
run back to the huddle.
no
That's
no
right.
need no need at
Yeah.
all. You
Yeah.
know.
Yeah.
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 I'm a
Okay.
Cleveland Browns fan, so
Okay. Yeah.
just
Okay.
know that,
All right. Okay.
right? Yeah.
Yeah. I've been
Yeah.
living by I've been living by that for maybe
Yeah.
40 of
Yeah.
my
huh.
almost 70 years. Yeah.
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 It
That's
really
perfect idea.
it saves you.
Yeah.
Hmm.
It saves
I think there's that is important that you, because we talk about this energy,
you.
but there's a point where you have to have, and Pastor Nick, you said this about self-care, where you've got to take the time to rebuild that energy store, right? And folks always ask, oh, what you got going on this weekend? Absolutely nothing, right? What you do? Church, right? And because I take my Saturdays and Sundays to actually rejuvenate, recharge, do things for me, right? And so that I'm ready to push it again when I have to. Now, sometimes that is on the weekend, right?
Hmm.
But that point of doing certain things, and there's probably like one day a month, right, on a Saturday where I actually probably shouldn't tell this, but where I actually will not leave the house, right? I might not be combing my hair that day, right? I am
We get it.
I
We get it.
Right. Right.
We get it.
right? I'm just, because that part of just sitting back, I have that opportunity to just read, right? I don't really want any visitors. I'm relaxing. I'm taking time to think, right? I might be in the kitchen baking or something. All of those things that when you're in the heat of the battle that you don't get to do, whatever it is that allows you to recharge so that you restore that energy. I think that we have to make sure that we're doing that too. And I don't know, I think Pastor Nick, you mentioned that you just keep going, going, going. And at a certain point, you kind of might just like drop out, right? So finding that time intermittently, and it may be just an hour here or there, but I think
45
that
minutes
is
to an
so
hour. Yep.
crucial.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think 40, 45, let me see. As far back as the 80s, I started taking naps in the afternoon.
Uh-huh.
And I have not broken that cycle for the last 50 years.
Hmm.
That I will take that nap, and that allows me to push further with freshness into the latter part of the day.
There's a reason why in Europe and other countries they have that siesta,
Siesta.
Siesta.
Yep.
right?
Hmm.
Hmm.
And 2 to 3 hours because they start early in the morning. They
Hmm.
go home, they've got that 2 to 3 hours, but then they come back and they can push till 7 or 8,
Hmm.
etc.
Hmm.
Right? And we, as a rule, some of us push till 7 to 8 without a break at all. And that is not what we were built to do.
Yeah, and I think there's exceptions. There are days when you don't get to do that, but
Right.
I
The app.
try. I try to get at least an hour,
Yeah.
Hmm.
and I
Yeah.
find it refreshes you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Don't you think each industry dictates a different type of energy? I know
Yep.
Yeah.
for me, I'm up 5 and I go all day.
Yep.
And depending on how busy I am, what's going on, who I need to take care of, and timing everybody coming and going. And that's just pretty much every chef that you know. Every business owner is on high energy.
Yep.
If you own a business, you're on point most of the day
Yeah.
into the night.
Into the
And
night. Yeah.
you're probably pretty much 24/7
Yep.
because your days off, you're concentrating on what needs to be paid, when it was paid, what needs to be picked up. So, my industry is a very high strung go until you can't go anymore. And then you hope that somebody's coming behind you that can fill that slot. So I think each industry kind of dictates the energy level that you have to actually operate at. As a leader, you're going constantly all day.
Right.
Having been in the restaurant industry, what I used to do was catch a 20-minute nap in my office and then just get back to it because it never ended.
Yep.
You're in demand to do something, but I think that the slow pace until a faster pace is needed, and we all know how to pace ourselves, or we need to learn
Right.
when to expend ultimate energy and when to reserve it, and I think that gives you longevity. I think it gives you longevity, and it looks to other people like you're pushing the entire time, but your energy level.
Yeah.
And and part of the skill of being a leader is actually looking intense all the time when you're really not.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
just don't want them to think you're slacking off.
Right.
You
Yep.
know,
Yeah.
you
I was
know,
about to say the same thing. Sometimes I'll tap out.
yeah.
They think I'm thinking about something serious. I'm thinking about Star Wars or what I'm going to eat later. It's just like something random just to
Yeah,
relax myself.
Right.
yeah,
Ain't got nothing to do with work. It's completely
That's your way to
nonsensical.
recharge.
That's my way.
yeah.
That's my way to recharge. Where I'll play. I still got a PlayStation at home. Where I'll play Madden for like 45 minutes. Just something to kind of. I don't have to think about anything right now.
Right.
You
Right.
know, but you're right. That replenishing and that not casting your pearls before swine, not wasting your energy in wrong places with wrong people. Something that saved my energy. Remember Bishop said years ago, always see everything, but correct very little. The key is make sure you see everything. I think as a leader, we think we got to come in and just because you got to know what's going to correct itself on its own and when to put your hands on it.
That's really good.
That's a huge energy saver.
Yes. Yep.
When you're intentional about when you're going to step in versus when you're just going to observe.
Yep.
So, anything anybody want to share in the last couple minutes? We got about 2 minutes left before we go.
Who can help with this?
Just in clarity, I find that my energy, I'm probably the strongest early in the morning, 3:30, 4 o'clock, I'm good. And I've also found that I can't make decisions when I'm tired. Early on, I would make decisions all the time, anytime, but I've learned not to make a decision when I'm tired. After 6 p.m., no major decisions are made for me because I have a tendency not to make real good ones.
Yeah.
After 6 is over. Yeah. And my 4 o'clock nap from 4 to about 4:30, every day it seems like I just start fading and I'll go at the desk and just lay back and 30 minutes I'm gone and I'm good now until 9 o'clock.
Right.
But so reserving that energy and knowing where it is and when to use it, when to make decisions, I found to be very, very important.
Yeah.
Because early on, I would just make them, just make them and just let it happen.
I think
Found
all of
out
us
that
need to know that.
they didn't always happen correctly.
Yeah. Right. I think all of us need to know during the day. I'm thinking a little crazy right now. Let me not make any major decisions right now because I'm not clear right now.
Right.
Yeah.
But
hey, Keefe can I'm sorry, Pastor Nick. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
You can get podcasts. Our daughter learned how to do podcasts online, and you can go to community college and get a class. You can just readily available to learn how to do podcasts. So
YouTube and all that stuff. Yeah.
YouTube and all that. But I hope
podcast.
everybody.
Sorry,
go ahead. I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
No, I just hope everybody enjoyed the book and go get it. It's a good read.
Yeah, there's so much
book,
we're not.
Thank you.
There's so much that we were not able to cover in it, but it's a great book, and I think I said the last time I've actually gifted it to several people, and the feedback is tremendous.
Okay, so it's 8 o'clock, and so glad you all can come on. We'll let all these morning people go to sleep. Um, y'all better be glad y'all not called the pastor, because our minds got to be on.
Oh man,
we
come on.
gotta make major decisions in the morning,
Yeah,
late
doesn't
at
matter.
night, in the mid. They don't care.
Don't think that.
And we
Okay.
appreciate
I'm trying
y'all
to tell
for
y'all
that.
something. I'm
We
trying to tell y'all
appreciate
something.
y'all for that.
But when God calls you to do something, He gives you what you need to get it done. So,
Absolutely.
Amen.
all right, y'all. The Lord bless y'all. Please don't forget we have our back to school drive this Saturday. If you can help us out, you can purchase a backpack, 5 and below, bring it to the church, or you can give on our website and click Catch the Fire in the giving field. We are having driving service, normal time at 11:30 on a Saturday while we're having the backpack drive. And of course, on Sunday, we're back for our normal schedule. And all day long in the morning, 8 engage time, 11 o'clock, and then back for 10 times better from the busiest church in America.
Yeah.
God bless y'all. We just thank God.
Pastor
Sir.
Nick, did we get any closer to our goal last night?
We got more donations than money wise. So Kathleen's
Okay.
going shopping tomorrow morning.
Okay, because
Yeah.
we want to do 1,000 bags, right?
Yes.
And they're $5 a piece.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm hoping everybody steps up.
Yeah. Thank you for that push.
Absolutely.
Yeah, we appreciate y'all.
I can smell the money on this call.
Right.
I can smell.
Yes.
I can smell. I pastor prosperous people. Praise the Lord.
Yes, you do.
Praise the Lord. Prosperous people.
Yes, you do.
God in heaven.
Right.
Just
All
all
right.
of you.
Right. All right, y'all. See y'all later.
See y'all
Bye.
later.